All right, well, I'm now getting this figured out with our PowerPoint slideshow. And let me see if I think, yeah, this is working, I think, where this is shared. And working with so many monitors and sharing these screens in Zoom, you don't always get it to work just right. So we're going to tonight work on the assignment, and I want to go over the chapters here: organizing your work, transferring physical media to digital, and repurposing and optimizing, finally creating written content. A couple examples there for you to review. We went over the discussion last night. So people are having problems uploading, and I'm able to upload some things. Some people have said that they don't have the link, but other people are able to upload and embed, as you can see. So I'm still trying to figure out why some people can't do that and some people can. So I'm able to upload some files here. Those are PDFs. I haven't embedded those because they're not graphics. There's some embedded graphics. So anyways, trying to sort out why some people can and some people can't. So looks like a lot of people are able to do this, embedding their images. Okay. All right, well, let's now focus on part 2, collecting and preparing chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. Designing a digital portfolio. And right now we're going to focus on these 4 chapters. There's one missing there. There it is. Organizing your work, transferring physical media, repurposing, optimizing, and creating written content. There we go. So obviously we're going to be focusing on this week, collecting the material in our portfolio. And it's obviously a task that is an ongoing task. It's not just a one-time thing, because once you create your portfolio, you're constantly updating it. So some people like to not just have the finished product. When they build their portfolio, they like to have separate folders where the different items are kept, but not only the output items, but also the project files that and component parts that we're used to put together. And so keep that in mind, not just the outcome, but basically the process materials, if you will. In this process, you're going to want to have a good backup system of your computer files. Keep in mind that being a student, you should get your graded work. Obviously, that's owned by you. And so make sure you keep track of all your work in all your classes, because if possible, add that to your portfolio. Now, if you are working for somebody, don't forget to ask your employer, the person who pays for your work, to have the rights to add to your portfolio anything you do for them. Don't be mistaken to think that you own what you're paid to create. You have to realize that and we're going to talk about this later in the class about copyright portfolio. You'll be allowed to use usually a sample, so of your work, not necessarily the full thing. All right. Another good idea is to take a photograph of your your work. So, store the original work. For example, you'll want to store any of the materials that were put together using, especially if it's a hard bound, anything hard bound. There are good ways of preserving all that. So we're talking about your portfolio, the hard copy portion of your portfolio. If it's digital, then you'll want to make sure that either the output format of the digital is in a stable environment. If you ever render it, then make sure that what you render it to is also stable. So the next step of organizing samples and artwork, make sure you take good care of that portfolio. Keep it in prime condition. You might want to use an old-fashioned drawer with Pendaflex folders. Make sure the output is stable. Digital files, you could organize those, for example. Organizing them on an electronic device that's backed up. In the process of keeping your digital files, it's almost like managing a garden. You want to group things and name them, and just put them in folders. Have a good naming system. You might want to date some of the things and organize them by date. Be descriptive. If you can, use a catalog thumbnails and folder icons and update it frequently. You might even want to create a catalog. And so Aperture and Adobe Lightroom both have excellent tools for archiving, tagging, and organizing. So that might be a good way to go for managing your portfolio. And make sure you do the backing up. I've demonstrated some examples of that with the Dropbox. Max Time Machine is actually used for backing up an entire drive and in a point where you can reload it from that backup, the entire computer. And be good about naming conventions and organizing all the formats on your hard drive. Be good about that. At the end of this chapter, we looked at the portfolio of John Locke. 'Cause John shows ways of organizing his portfolio using keywords and so on for searching his content, and then explains his future plans. So next step is transferring the physical media to digital. And here we have, for example, digital craft is defined here. Craft involving image quality, such as sharpness, cleanness, size, load speed, and so on. So appropriateness. So now dealing with the digital, it's going to be a different thing. So here, once you are dealing with digital, you have a different set of things to worry about and be concerned with. Oops. Some people are so good about scanning that you can't tell whether or not their work is a photograph or work that's been scanned, perhaps grafted together in Photoshop. I keep pressing space bar and it just goes right down there. Okay, so shooting 3D and oversized work can involve students and service bureaus and DVD services in that process. Obviously, digital art is flat, but 3D art isn't. There's actually no perfect way of getting around that. You might even think of using your digital portfolio to show off 3D pieces. You can actually create illusion of 3 dimensions in Photoshop. Here, the author goes into describing choosing your camera and choosing the lighting to do that, adjusting your camera in order to get this effect. It's quite interesting to take pictures of your graphic art work. And then creating lighting and setting it up and so on. Now that's 3D. What about flat art? And the author gives recommendations about scanning line art and in grayscale mode, not in bitmap or vector format there. There's line art. It's going to be a challenge because it's only the black and the white. You might want to get good at flatbed scanning, and there's some tips and techniques given by the author on cleaning the scanner, squaring up your art, being concerned about resolution. Now, what about digitizing slides and negatives? Author gives some recommendations about cleaning your slides, using film negatives, scanning right side up, not over scanning. All of these are good techniques. What about digitizing VHS tapes? That's going to be a different thing now. Who has work on VHS tapes these days? Well, if you're videographer, obviously you might have some of your portfolio on VHS tapes. So here you have to, if you're going to transfer it to a DVD, start with good quality tape, transfer it to the DVD, and then use the right tools such as iMovie or Premiere or Final Cut Pro to digitize that tape. Finally, do cleaning up of the digitized art. You got to be a little bit careful there. There are lots of techniques for doing that. So now the working process here is mentioned by the author in the process of the post scanning and the editing of that scan. So in doing that, there's an important process of choosing the file type, because each file type, such as JPEG or TIFF or PNG, they actually have different applications and different value. You can have raw files and so on. So some of these are bitmap, and if you can retain vector images, you're better off. That's the best situation to be in. If you do get into some output formats that are bitmaps, such as JPEG, you just don't want to edit those. That's going to be a problem, just because it's a bitmap graphic. There are when you're involving yourself with these issues, there are editable issues and things such as tonal problems. You can use the histogram, which gives you ideas about where the frequency or of the, I say frequency, but it's really color wavelength, and the brightness and contrast, moire. These are all different things that can be backgrounds that can be edited. And then next step would be, those were all the editable issues. The next thing would be involved in the resizing of images, that possibly the resampling. And sharpening images. You have that ability also. It's always the last thing you would do before you save a file in a compressed format. Don't forget to keep your original file format. This chapter here, chapter 6, ends with a highlight of the portfolio about Triborough design, Dave Heastie's work, and then it goes into just a good application of somebody who's gone from transferred physical media into digital. That's what he's known for. Goes into navigation, architecture of his website, the content, which is standard, and some more details on that in his future plans. For his website. Next, we're going to look at Chapter 7, Repurposing and Optimizing. Here we involve ourselves with, begin with file adaptation strategies. And here is when you may have a certain format that the medium that you're going to, it doesn't support that format, or it's not enough high resolution. Well, this is what it means to adapt the file, and author goes over various strategies and how and concerns about how to do that. Now you can also do the same thing using PDFs, and PDFs are a good way to repurpose files, for example, that were originally created in a page layout or illustration program. Bring those together and multiple image files into a single file, and can actually use the automated PDF creation in Adobe Acrobat Professional 9. There's actually a feature called Portfolio. That makes it really easy. There's some PDF creation hints, such as creating a cover page and avoiding scrolling if possible. Shooting the original files, using TIFF files, not JPEG. Being careful about your file sizes, because that file can get really big. Labeling your artwork. Naming your PDF, and be careful about using headshots in your PDF. Your picture is not a selling point for your portfolio. It's funny. I gotta just be careful when I click that. Optimizing the optimization process. Author goes into explaining different ways of just the basics of optimizing the color, image quality, image submissions, and the file size. The optimizing process, the author goes into, and Adobe Fireworks is good, or Photoshop, and those incorporate different ways of optimizing. Actually, Photoshop even has a file export safe for web and devices, and that's an example of how there is a transformation of the image for example, a website. That's what is involved in this optimizing process. And there'll be a drop down where you can choose all the different sizes depending on how much resolution you want and the download time. Author goes into the differences between GIFs and JPEGs and PNGs, and then she goes over optimizing video. We actually don't have a lot of video being used in portfolios that we create. Encoders and players are discussed. And what that means is the file format of your video has to have a particular driver and player and encoding. So that's what you need. Is understanding about these if you have video. We'll go over things like Flash and Flash video and DivX and Vimeo and YouTube sites. So once you've decided on the format, the next thing you do is just understanding the resolution and the file size. Once again, this is for video. Window size will dictate file size, compression type, frame rate, key frame rate, all of those are factors in the encoding settings. So after the artwork, repurposing and optimizing are the tasks that will seem most time consuming. So that's what this, oops, not sure what happened there. This will take the biggest time of your work, this step of repurposing and optimizing. Finally, we go over the portfolio of Tom Bennett, Optimal Detail. In his portfolio, talks a lot about using websites, and so he's had to optimize his portfolio. Each demonstration goes into navigation, architecture, future plans, content, and future plans. The final chapter we're going to go over is chapter 8, creating written content. So you might ask yourself the question, what does writing have to do with our portfolio? That's what the author goes into in this chapter. So, believe it or not, first and foremost, avoid writing errors. I have seen portfolios with spelling errors in them. And you might think that there's room for that, but there is absolutely no room for spelling or grammar errors. Absolutely no room for that. And so you're going to have to own right now the problem of writing, figuring out how to write perfect spelling, use perfect spelling and grammar. The best way I've found is using Microsoft Word to spell check any text that you incorporate. And then also run the grammar checker. So be very careful about writing errors. It tells the tale. There's some hints about that. Next, what to write and why to write it. And you want to identify your work, introduce yourself, explain your ideas and process, and then speak directly to your audience. If they feel spoken to, you have to realize you are speaking to an audience, and the communication of your portfolio must be like a conversation. Identify your work, and then introduce yourself.
Chip?
Yeah.
You have strange hours, Chip.
What are you doing, Charlie?
Got my laptop. How's it going?
Good. I'm actually recording a class right now.
So did I just interrupt?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right. Explaining, that was a student that came in. explaining your creative thinking, writing to your audience. Is what she talks about. Make sure you have an artist statement, process comments. It's really good to explain how you went over the process that you use to create the products. You can include design briefs, describe it as a case study. Even use a blog. Finally, here we write to our audience. Remember how we went over the assessment and adaptation. You might want to involve humor, for example. Take that slant, just having a style about how you communicate with your audience. Let's see, I think I need to figure out how to share the screen again here. 1 second. Oh, it's because it ended. The last page, that's where it went. The final aspect of this chapter is to go over highlight the Sandstone Partners portfolio. And here giving examples of a lot of writing content, explain the navigation, the architecture. It's very much text-based. You definitely get a good feel for the usage of text on their website. Those are the content and the future plans. So that is what will be involved in the assignment. I'll go more over that tomorrow night. And go into detail about how to accumulate between 10 and 20 or even up to 30. I don't know if anybody has that many in an InDesign document. And then being careful to exporting your images in no smaller than 2" by 2", but no larger than 4" by 4". Here's some samples. Go over. And that's it for going over the content. That which we just went over will be what the assessment will be on. And then tomorrow we'll talk more about the assignment. All right. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining. And I'll connect with you tomorrow night. Thank you very much.